This is Provence Works. It's a joint collaboration between the Huis Marseille Museum of Photography, where there's approximately 50 works, and here at the Van Gogh Museum we have about 6 works. I approached this project differently than most of my other projects. I approached it more in the fashion as if I were a writer. I just kind of insulated myself from the commercial world and the art world, and I just worked really very quietly without any interruption for 3 or 4 years. I needed to do this because Provence has a very significant history of art, particularly with Cézanne and Van Gogh, and it's become kind of a cliché. And I thought it was quite interesting that since those 2 artists, there's been very few bodies of work that have come out of this area, and I soon realized why, because it's very hard to kind of transcend that cliché. After about 6 months, I started becoming quite depressed because I thought, I must be kind of an idiot trying to do a body of work on Provence in black and white photography, because the colors and the light, they're so profound and it seems really antithetical. Well, ultimately, I find that it's very helpful to be confined by your medium because it forces you to develop a new language and approach it in a new way. So on this piece, for example, one of the things you're overwhelmed with in Provence is the sun. The sun is a kind of main character, and it's so overwhelming. Sometimes during the summer you have 3 months, there's no rain, and there's just this sun, and it batters your brain, and it becomes very surrealistic, and the days go by, and it's just, you're in this kind of dreamlike trance. And how do you put that down in a work of art? How do you convey that? I think one of the challenges as a visual artist is, how do you express your inner life in a compelling, interesting fashion, and to share that with the viewer? I use all kinds of instruments and techniques in the darkroom. Sometimes I'll use actual tree branches or olive leaf branches. I pin everything up so they take on a 3-dimensional form, because I really have a problem with flat paper. I want them to be sculptural. Writing is a pretty important part of my practice. I wake up most mornings and I just free write, and it's very important to me to kind of just unload, and I work from my subconscious a lot. One morning I was working on my journal, and the light was on the book, and it was so beautiful seeing the words illuminated by the sunlight. My journal started to arrive into my photographs. Saint-Victoire is a UNESCO heritage mountain in Provence, and it's also where Cézanne was painting. I think he made approximately at least 30 paintings, even more, of this mountain from all different angles. And it's really a prime character in Provence, is Saint-Victoire. And wherever you go, you can see it from a distance. And it's really a sacred mountain, very hard to articulate the energy and power of this beautiful rock. You could have a really bad day, and you go out in the mountain, and the mountain doesn't care about all your human problems, and it silences your mind when you look at it. And I wanted, when people look at this picture, that their mind just goes silent, and they're just in this kind of eternal sphere, because that's what this mountain does to you. I'm interested in this because it seems like it's alive, and that there's some movement in it and vitality. Traditionally, I think people try to capture a very specific moment in photography, an event, and I'm actually trying to do something quite the contrary. I want to show the immortal nature of my subject and to keep it alive. One of the reasons I got into photography in the first place was I had a lot of energy and didn't really know what I wanted to do, and was interested in everything. And I thought photography would be a great vehicle for me to explore life. This diptych is titled Cassandra, named after the woman in the image. I'm particularly fascinated by this work because this work transcends a portrait. You feel Provence in her expression, and you feel something really sacred by looking into her eyes. There's a very mysterious quality about her. Photography is this really magical art form. I'm constantly trying to see what I can do with it. You have all these kind of strange experiences and you want to put it down, yeah, like a writer. This diptych is of a woman named Wendy. I thought she's quite representative of Provence, because Provence has a really fascinating history. It was inhabited by the Romans, and she has this kind of Latin, mysterious presence about her. And I particularly like how she's just sort of coming out of nature, or part of the nature behind her, and this really intense, direct light probably bouncing off the Mediterranean and hitting her right square in the face. And you see these really strong shadows that you don't have in other parts of the world, and it kind of creates the architecture of her face and this really strange, mysterious moment in between a breath. After you work for a long time in photography, and you start out using the camera to try to copy the world, document the world, if you will, and the more I work as an image maker, I realize I'm not interested in describing the country. I'm interested to make the country. In order to talk about this work, I would have to talk about the darkroom, because I spend probably 97% of my time in the darkroom and maybe 3 to 5% out photographing, especially in Provence, where the light is so bright and powerful. And then you go into this dark room to try to re-manifest the light. It starts to mess with your head, and it's a dance, yeah? And then you come out of the dark and you have this new entity, this piece of paper, and hopefully maybe a work of art. So when I was living in Provence, I continued one of my pastimes, and that is to look for old negatives. And we found this old negative, and that had never been printed before, and I held it up to the light and I saw it was a painter, and so I took it back and I gave it a life. I just thought it was really wonderful, this character painting on the side of the road, and he's got this abstract painting there. And then I decided to finish his painting for him. I mean, ultimately, I want to be able to put an image on the wall, and I want to be able to look at it forever. So it needs to be alive, it needs to be mysterious, it needs to be begging a question of me, and it needs to provoke something in me. But mostly, it needs to just silence my mind, and so that I transcend time itself. And if it puts me, or catapults me into that universe, then I'm where I want to be.